Okay, objections, page 35. I had a service contract on my last car and I never used it. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah.
Are you a married man, Andre?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you a married man?
Absolutely.
You had a service contract on your last car and you never used it. Have you made any provision to take care of your wife and family should you pass away?
Yes.
What, life insurance?
Yep.
You have it last year?
Yep.
Pissed off you didn't die?
Not really.
Had that damn life insurance and I'm still here. Had that service contract, never used it. I bet you have car insurance on your wife's car.
I do.
She have a major wreck last year?
Nope.
Bet that pissed you off. You don't buy a service contract hoping you have a claim. Because if you do have a claim, it'll financially save your life. I mean, think about it. The repairs on today's cars are substantially more than in past times, all the electronics and high tech. And 50% of the time that car is a drivability problem. We have to tow it. 50% of the time that car comes in on the hook. It's a drivability problem. I had 9 Escalades since 2000. 9 of them. I was doing a lot of business with General Motors, and Mark LaNave was the president of General Motors, and we were getting, he's a good friend of mine. I was getting an Escalade almost every year. I had 7 Corvettes and 9 Escalades since 2000. And it's kind of funny, Debbie and I were driving the Escalade down the street one day, and it stopped. The computer shut it down because it had some defect and it had to be towed. Today's cars, the computer will shut down a drivability problem. Have you experienced that? Pete? There's certain things that your car will shut down and you have to have it towed. So towing is a really good, important part of the service contract. And we already talked about wear and tear, consequential damage are not covered by the factory warranty. That word track on insurance is actually in the book. I trade my cars frequently. I won't keep it for the complete term of the loan. You know, on a service contract, in all 50 states, including Florida, any unearned premium is refunded to you. All service contracts are refunded pro rata, not on the rule of 78ths. So in other words, I learned the rule of 78s in F&I school 30 years ago. Steve, explain to me the rule of 78s.
Basically, the rule of 78 is you're going to pay all the interest no matter what, whether you pay it off early or if you carry concern.
Well, not exactly. No, that's not exactly right. You don't pay all the interest, but you pay more interest at the beginning of the loan and less at the end of the loan at the rule of 78s. I took an F&I school that they spent a whole day teaching how to compute by hand the rule of 78s. And it taught us how to do a contract by hand. I went on to set records and never, ever hand wrote a contract. If the electricity went out, I just waited till it came back on. Quit it. But they spent a whole day teaching that class how to do the rule of 78s. And nobody could do it a day later because it was so complex. I'm going to explain the rule of 78s to you in less than 2 minutes. And you will remember it for the rest of your life. Would you like to see this wizardry?
Absolutely.
Okay. You can put a stopwatch on me if you want. The rule of 78ths. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Add those numbers together, 78. At the first month of a 12-month loan, you pay 12/78 of the entire amount of interest. On the second month of a 12-month loan, you pay 11/78 of the total amount of interest. On the third month of a 12-month loan, you pay 10/78 of the total amount of interest. On the last month of a 12-month loan, you only pay 1/78 of the interest. So in other words, by the first 3 months, you have paid 33/78, nearly half of the interest in the first 25% of the loan. Thank you. So if it was a 60-month loan, you would go 60, 59, 58, add them together, get this big-ass number, and that becomes the denominator in the fraction. Do you understand it now? Okay, all service contracts are refunded pro rata. Now what that means, and this is even in Florida, based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. Based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. Okay, I have a 5-year, 50,000 mile parts and labor agreement. And the customer cancels it. Where's my black marker? There it is. And the customer cancels it in 3 years, 12,000 miles. How much is that customer's refund?
2/5.
That customer's refund is 40%. Because 3 as opposed to 5 years, he only used 3 years, she only used 3 years. Out of the 5, 2 years remaining, they get that. So they get 40% refund. They use 60% of the term. Okay, same customer did it differently. They canceled in 2 years, 40,000 miles. Now what's the refund? 20%. They used 80% of the miles. This one used 60% of the term, did not. So based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. You got that? Whatever the greatest percentage of has elapsed is how they compute service contract refunds. Pro rata, not based on the rule of 78. So Mr. Customer, any unearned premium is refunded to you directly or to the bank in your payoff. You will never have to pay for any parts you did not use. But by adding additional term and miles, if you sell your car to a private owner, it makes your car more valuable to have service contracts remaining. Make good sense? So based on miles or term, whichever the greatest percentage of has elapsed. What are you getting out of this? What's your position?
I'm a GM here at IPD. Just the things I can talk to my BDC about, you know, just some different.
Oh yeah, your BDC. This is some great stuff for your BDC.
Yeah.
Brad, what are you getting out of this?
Well, it's fresh stuff I haven't heard before.
A lot of word tracks.
Yeah, a lot of psychological stuff, just saying the same thing differently makes the difference.
Semantics, saying the same thing differently in a more customer-friendly way. What are you getting out of this, Andre?
A lot of different things, different word tracks that I'll be able to use when closing for F9. Very helpful.
You need to practice them, and because the thing is, within 72 hours, if you don't make this indelible in your mind, you'll never do it. If you don't really make this imprinted in your brain. What do you think?
Good approaches, something different ways to approach a customer.
Exactly.
Something fresh that they may not have heard elsewhere, probably haven't.
And the customer says, Mr. Ziegler, manufacturers are building an incredibly quality automobile today. After all, this is a Honda. And your salesman just stood on the parking lot and told me this car could take a direct ground zero nuclear hit. Yeah. Now you're telling me my car is going to break. Well, right, Mr. Customer, but today we're building cars with complex technology. 15,000 high-tech component parts. If we built this car 98% perfect, that would mean 300 parts would fail. Your new Honda has 15,000 high-tech component parts. Plastic, metal, rubber, glass, space-age assemblies. Think about it a second. Plastic, rubber, glass, space-age materials, welded, bonded, riveted, glued, fused together by human beings. Some of these parts moving at speeds in excess of 10,000 RPMs, less than 3,000th of an inch of clearance, 1,000th of an inch of lubrication, creating high levels of heat. Something's going to break. Repeat that back to me. No. 15,000 high-tech component parts. Plastic, metal, rubber, glass, space-age materials, welded, stapled, riveted, glued, fused together by human beings and robots. Some of these parts moving at speeds in excess of 10,000 RPMs, less than 3,000th of an inch of clearance, rubbing and abrading against each other, creating high levels of heat. Something's going to break.
And friction.
Friction. Forgot about the friction. By the way, that whole word track is in your book, page 37. I'll tell you, I have had more fun with that word track because the consumers almost go into hypnosis. Mr. Customer, did you realize that your new Honda is 15,000 high-tech component parts? Plastic, rubber, metal, glass, space-age materials, welded, riveted, bonded, fused, glued together by human beings and robots. Some of these parts moving at speeds in excess of 10,000 RPMs, less than 3,000th of an inch of clearance, 1,000th of an inch of lubrication, rubbing and abrading against of each other, creating high levels of heat. If we built this car 98% perfect, 300 parts would fail. If we built this car 99.9% perfect, 15 parts would fail. Think about that. If Tampa Airport was 99.9% perfect, it'd have 3 crashes a day. No, never mind. We're getting some good information. I think they're going to bring lunch in for us, aren't they?
Already got it.
Are y'all hungry?
We're about. I'm almost to that point. How long am I eligible for this? You ever have a customer? Well, I'll buy it later. Well, yeah, Mr. Customer, you've got all the way to the end of the factory warranty to buy this car. That's true. But I've had 3 price increases this year, and Mr. Customer, it's not going to be as inexpensive as it is today, and they're still going to date it back to today's date and miles. They're still going to date it back to today's date and miles. Excuse me, Mr. Customer. And I can put it on a contract at a very low interest rate as opposed to your credit card at a later time at a much higher rate. And the truth of the matter is, you're going to procrastinate. You're never going to get around to it. And if you have a major repair, it's going to ruin your life financially.